It's Tuesday, June 8th, and the time for your Barbados Today morning news update. Tourism and maritime officials have taken steps to avoid another major COVID-19 breakout as cruise ship visitors return to Barbados for the first time in 15 months. That's according to Minister of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy cook Humphrey, who also assured that both visitors and crew members would be held to the highest standards in relation to the observation of this country's COVID-19 protocols. Humphrey made the comments yesterday after welcoming 500 vaccinated passengers aboard Celebrity Millennium at the Bridgetown port.
I've made the point several times that for me it is about opening carefully, it is about opening safely. I've insisted that passengers on board the cruise ship listen and take heed to our protocols and follow them. We did not bring down our numbers by serendipity, and that we've communicated that to the ships and to all the stops. And so we hope that this season, as the tourists come, that we do so in a manner that is safe and allows Barbados to operate in a manner that respects the wishes of the average Barbadian as well.
The minister also assured that a new inclusive model was being created to give taxi operators a fair share of port business.
I've said before, and I'm saying it again now, that as we re-expand or that we reopen tourism, it has to be a much more inclusive model. I made the point this morning that the taxi operators have to get a larger share of the pie. Traditionally, a lot of these cruises are booked, a lot of the tours are booked on board the cruise ship before they get to Barbados, and the taxi operators don't get a benefit. We've been working in the Bridgetown port with the taxi operators to help them develop themselves and to be able to form a collective whereby they could offer cruises as well and have those cruises on board the ship so that they could get part of the pie. To make sure that includes the jet ski operators, the vendors, and so on. So that as we bounce back, we bounce forward. And that we have a much more inclusive tourism model that lends itself to the development not only of the industry but the people in the industry as well.
The Democratic Labour Party has called on government to come clean with taxpayers about millions of dollars that have gone unaccounted for. Referring to the Auditor General's most recent report, DLP President Verla de Pisa raised questions about government's write-off of its investment in the failed multi-million-dollar Four Seasons Hotel project and other substantial sums of money that cannot be traced.
The Auditor General also was alarmed that government had dishonored checks totaling $6.7 million, which were not seen in the dishonored checks register. So where has this money gone? That is a lot of money to be unaccounted for, particularly only 3 years into the term of a government that campaigned on accountability and transparency. The Democratic Labour Party calls on the government to keep its promise of transparency and inform the country and the Auditor General on where our money has gone.
The Fair Trading Commission will be re-examining its legislation regarding pyramid schemes following reports of an increasing number of people losing thousands of dollars in so-called blessing circles over the last few months. Speaking during a discussion on scams and schemes hosted by the Barbados Association of Retired Persons, the FTC's Director of Consumer Protection, Dave Leslie Ward, said special legislation will be required to deal with what she described as these unfair arrangements.
With this type of scheme that we're seeing, there's not a lot that we can do. That's the reason why, one, we're looking to change our legislation, and two, we are doing so much education so that you don't get tricked. Now, it isn't to say that we can't do anything, but what we can do is somewhat limited, and we're actively working on coming up with a regulatory framework to bring this type of scheme that we're seeing into the loop. Because as you know, this scheme does not have any element of any goods and services. It is just straight, plain old recruitment of a person into a scheme.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news now, the Guyana government assures residents in several regions inundated by floodwaters of its continued assistance. Gordon Mosley of News Source Guyana has the story.
In Kukwani in Region 10, the flooding persists, with the rivers and creeks still overflowing their banks. In some parts of Region 5, residents can no longer live in the bottom flat of their buildings because of the flooding. Farms have been ravaged. President Irfan Ali has described the flooding as the worst disaster that Guyana has ever seen. He visited some communities over the weekend and said the magnitude of the flood is being misunderstood.
You may not know what is happening. Many of our brothers and sisters across Guyana are faced with the worst disaster we have ever had, or they have ever had, in the history of our country. You may not see it here. Just returned from Olive Creek, Kurupung Bottom, Jawala, Camarang. Spoke to the people in Jawala and Camarang, where their entire life has been destroyed. Everything they worked for all their life has disappeared.
And finally, on the international front, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has ordered a comprehensive investigation into railway safety fault lines after some 36 people lost their lives on Monday and more than 120 were injured in a train collision. More in this Reuters TV report.
A train crash in Pakistan on Monday has killed at least 36 people, according to government officials, in the latest accident to highlight the hazardous state of the country's over 165-year-old railway system. The death toll was likely to rise as rescuers struggled to reach people trapped in mangled compartments scattered across the tracks in the southern province of Sindh. Military helicopters flew overhead to carry the wounded passengers. A Pakistan railway spokesman said several carriages of one train fell across the adjacent track after a derailment in the Gotki district. A second train coming from the other direction then smashed into them. Prime Minister Imran Khan said on Twitter he was shocked by the horrific accident and was ordering a comprehensive investigation into railway safety. Accidents on the decrepit system are common. In 2005, in the same district, about 130 people were killed when a crowded passenger train rammed into another at a station and a third train hit the wreckage.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.